जय श्री माता जी। आज के उपस्थित सभी सहयोगियों का स्वागत है। आज के श्री बुद्ध पूर्णिमा के शुभ अवसर पर यहाँ पर हम श्री माता जी का ध्यान करने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी को प्रणाम करते हैं, दोनों हथेली गोद में, और परम पूज्य श्री माता जी के चरण कमल पर निर्विचार होकर देखने की कोशिश करें। सामूहिक बंधन। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, आज के श्री बुद्ध पूर्णिमा के शुभ अवसर पर आप हमें ध्यान की अनुमति प्रदान करें और आप जैसा चाहे वैसा ध्यान हमसे करवा के ले, और श्री बुद्ध जी के सारे आशीर्वाद हमारे अंदर प्रस्थापित करें। तीन महामंत्र, तत्पश्चात श्री गणेश मंत्र।
त्वमेव साक्षात् श्री महालक्ष्मी महासरस्वती
संतुलन अवस्था प्राप्त करने हेतु अपना राइट हैंड धरणी मां पर रखें। ईड़ा नाड़ी पर ध्यान देते हुए श्री महावीर साक्षात ये मंत्र लेते हैं। ओम त्वमेव साक्षात श्री महावीर साक्षात श्री आदिशक्ति माता जी श्री निर्मला देवै नमो नमः। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी कृपावंत होकर हमारे ईड़ा नाड़ी पर श्री महावीर जी की शक्ति जागृत हो जाए। हमारे ईड़ा नाड़ी में हमें पूर्ण संतुलन प्रदान करे। राइट हैंड गोद में, लेफ्ट हैंड आकाश की ओर। मंत्र लेते हैं। श्री बुद्ध साक्षात। ओम त्वमेव साक्षात श्री बुद्ध साक्षात श्री आदिशक्ति माता जी श्री निर्मला देवै नमो नमः। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी कृपावंत होकर हमारे पिंगला नाड़ी पर श्री बुद्ध जी की शक्ति पूर्णतया जागृत हो जाए। हमारी पिंगला नाड़ी में हमें संतुलन अवस्था प्रदान करे। यहाँ पर हम कहते हैं श्री बुद्धम शरणम गच्छामि। बुद्धम शरणम गच्छामि, धम्मम शरणम गच्छामि, संघम शरणम गच्छामि, श्रीमा शरणम गच्छामि। धीरे से लेफ्ट हैंड गोद में रखें। दोनों हथेली और सहस्रार पर ध्यान देते हुए कुंडलिनी माता की अनुभूति की ओर ध्यान दें। मूलाधार पर श्री गणेश जी को वंदन करते हुए प्रार्थना करते हैं। हे श्री गणेशा, कृपावंत होकर हमें संतुलन प्रदान करें। हमारे अंदर पूर्ण पवित्रता जागृत करे। चित्त हमारा मध्य हृदय पर। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी कृपा करके हमें निर्भय बनाए। अब हमारा चित्त आज्ञा चक्र पर। राइट हैंड की आज्ञा की उंगली आज्ञा चक्र पर रखते हुए प्रेस करके गोल घुमाना है और यहाँ पर मंत्र लेना है श्री मात्रेय साक्षात। ओम त्वमेव साक्षात श्री मात्रेय साक्षात श्री आदिशक्ति माता जी श्री निर्मला देवै नमो नमः। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, आप ही माँ त्रय हो, आप ही महालक्ष्मी महासरस्वती, महाकाली, ये तीनों माँ आप ही हो। राइट हैंड सहस्रार पर प्रेस करके गोल घुमाते हुए श्री माता जी को प्रार्थना करते हैं। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, कृपावंत होकर हमें परमात्मा की शक्ति से एकाकार कराए। आज के इस श्री बुद्ध पूर्णिमा के शुभ अवसर पर हमें श्री बुद्ध देवता की शक्ति हमारे अंदर जागृत करे। धीरे से राइट हैंड गोद में। इसी अवस्था में हम थोड़ी देर ध्यान में बैठेंगे। इसी अवस्था में अब हम परम पूज्य श्री माता जी की श्री बुद्ध तत्व पर आधारित अमृतवाणी को आत्मसात करेंगे।
Today is a great day to come to Brighton because it's the day of Buddha's birth. Today is Buddha's birthday, Lord Buddha's birthday. You all have heard about his birth and that his mother dreamt of an elephant, of a large white elephant, before the birth of Buddha. And then it was predicted that a child will be born in your family who will be either a great saint or a very great king, as in Sanskrit called Chakravarti, means the one who is the ruler of the whole world. So the father got worried and he thought he must get the son involved into the family life, into material life, and give him all the pleasures of life. So he built a very special place for him, beautiful palace to live in. And where he got married to a girl called Yashodhara, was a very, very beautiful woman, gave him all the pleasures of life, everything that he could do to entice this boy away from asceticism. Also, you know the story of his going one day on the road, how he found three types of people, and how he felt that why a person should become old, why should a person suffer in life, and why should people die. So all these three things put an inquiry into himself, and he started trying to understand why these things happen to human beings. With this, the inquiry started. So he reached a point where he could not bear any more the comforts and all the attachments that were entangled around him by his father. He had a son whose name was Rahul, and he left the son and the wife in the search of the truth. Now, he started from a wrong end, I should say, for the search of the truth, because he wanted to know why there are miseries in the human beings. And so he started from collective towards the set. When we see miseries all around us, many people have seen, they say, what about others? Will everybody get realization? Will everybody will have this? You see, this comes from the wrong end, I feel, because first of all, we must know, are we all right? Are we perfect? Are we full of joy? Have we received the absolute knowledge? If you start from this point, it's always better. Because he started from the wrong point, searching it from the collective, to remove the miseries of the people, he had to go in a very roundabout. So he read all the books and Vedas, and this he went to big Pandits, to all the great knowledgeable people, to meet them, to ask them the answer why there are these three things. That is, the yoga is the health or miserable physical body, then the death and the old age. Went and asked so many people, and they said, you have to die because you are born. And then they said that you have to become old because you are born like that. And you have to suffer because you commit sins. He was not satisfied with his answer. So he went on searching and searching and searching. And then he got tired, absolutely fed up. When he went to a place called Gaya, very near Patna it is. I've seen the place and the tree. And he sat under a banyan tree where he slept off because he got so tired of his sleep. And after the sleep, he got up and suddenly he got his realization. And he thought the whole drama is over. Now his mother herself was Adi Shakti, who gave him the birth. And she died just after the birth of the child. And he got this realization. Now at that time, when he got his realization, there was nobody to tell him what it is. That what it means. Realization is nobody to decode or talk about anything that was to be understood by him. But because of his tremendous seeking and such ardent desire that the Shuddha Ichha, the Kundalini itself, rose. But of course, the Adi Shakti blessed him and he got his realization under the banyan tree. Now, any incarnation which came on this earth had to samayachar, according to the time, the need of the time had to act. Firstly. Secondly, the need of the incarnation to come on this earth was first created in the human being. So, supposing at a time when there was too much of ritualism, Brahmanism, or priesthood, and people were trying to take everything onto those artificial rituals and all that, an incarnation had to come on this earth to correct those ideas. Like Krishna came at a time when he said, this is all Leela, puja and everything he cancelled. Nothing to it, no puja, nothing. You just have ras, enjoy yourself. It's all a joke going on. See? So he brought that concept at that time in the awareness of people that the whole world is a Leela, is a play of God's own whims. So you just enjoy it. And that's how he created this wonderful festival of Holi, which we had in Delhi. I don't know. Any one of you who was there for the Holi? No. You were there?
2 years.
No, but this time you were not there. All right. You might get the pictures of that. All right. So in the same way, when Buddha came in, first problem was that he thought that it's better not to talk about God. Because in his search, everybody told him the answer was, oh, it's God who does it. He punishes you. It's God who gives you this old age. It's God who does it. But what is this God after all? Why does he do it? He said, you better ask the God. Where is the God? So everybody put every blame on God as usual. Even that's done today. Nothing new. And nothing unusual, I should say. So this must be done by God. If you cut your throat, God put my knife in my hand and he cut my throat. So you see, he thought better not talk of God. Because everybody is going towards God. Then the people whom he met, they said, now I have become God. He said, how? He said, I'm God. Oh, what? Why? Because he could mesmerize people. He said, I have become God. Just imagine. So he thought that is very dangerous to talk of God because people take God in the hand and use it for their own purpose. Always say, oh, this is what the God has to do and it's God has done it and I'm in connection with God and I'll tell God. So he got a fright and he said, better not talk about God because that puts the attention of the people on ritualism, artificial things, they're building temples after temples and just doing all these horrible things which one should not do. Like if you go to the south, you'll find in the temples, they shave their heads of the leaves. They shave it completely. And that they have to, this all cobbled along the sides of the walls of the temple. And the ladies who shave their head are just rolling along the sides. They have to do it sometimes 1008 times, rolling. Imagine. And the water is poured on them. See? God knows what is the ritual from where it has come. So the poor women go on rolling like that. And somebody is pouring water on them all the time, buckets after buckets. The husband and the brother and all, they bring one after another. You see, one is finished, then another one. Poor lady is rolling like that on that muddy, sort of a cobbled area. I mean, I was shocked when I saw this. And then later on, you see, they became modern. So they started selling the hair, you see, abroad. So the whole thing became a big industry in Madras, you see. The hair was made into this bouffant and all that you turn it, you see. Sent to England and other places. So it's, I mean, in the name of God, ridiculous things were done. So he just thought better not talk about God. The first step is self-realization. He was a great Sir Yogi, I must say. Because he said nothing doing, don't talk about God or anything. First you get your realization. That was the first condition. Establish it. Unless and until you have established your realization, nothing doing. So he just started his own method of propagating Buddha's knowledge, or you can Buddhism as they call it. Of course, it became ism later on. So all that he started with the idea that people should first become Buddha. Buddha means realize. Buddha is to know. So Buddha means the person who has known, means the one who is a realizer. So what he says, Buddham Sharanam Gaccham. I surrender. Sharanam means I surrender to the Buddhas, means to all the Sahajogis. You are all Buddhas because you know. When you know, you are the Buddha. Now, without going into all that nonsense of renunciation and shaving your head and wearing that dress and everything, you have achieved your realization. It's a short circuit or a short path. Why? Because he started from the other side. But if he had started directly from himself, it would have been better. You see, in practical sense, I'll tell you how it is. Supposing you want to repair your house. So, you have to have instrument for that house. But supposing you are worried about all the houses of the world and you start repairing. Neither you will repair other houses nor yours. So first you must practice on yourself. Put your attention to yourself. It also is a method by which you avoid seeing the point, seeing the reality. That if you are not all right, how can you improve the whole world? So when your attention goes to other things, you must know that there's something wrong with you first of all, which must be corrected. And that's why it took him so much time to go round and round and round. He had to give up his wife, give up his family, give up everything and get to realization. Because by giving up everything, he realized that it is he who should achieve. It's a very circuitous way. But you can just say it doesn't exist anything, first let me get all right. That's Sahaja. Now what happened? That became a method for people to achieve God. Many people think that you must suffer like Christ to achieve God. You must renounce the world, then achieve God. Actually, renouncing the world and all that is just a myth. How do you renounce the world? It's myth. What are you renouncing? I mean, in any case, you can't carry this with you, can you? I mean, can you even carry, I would say, even a thread? Nothing. When you come like this. You are born closed fist. When you go, the hands are like this also. Have you ever seen a dead corpse? The youngest has his hands like this. Nothing empty. Just going like this. So you don't take anything from here. So this renouncing this, I renounce that, I give up this, I give up my wife, I give up that. Has no meaning. Because it's a state of mind in which your being becomes, I don't know the English word for that, which doesn't stick to something. What is it called? No. You see, any substance that doesn't stick to anything. I mean, we have all kinds of stick plasts.
Unattached. Unattached.
No, but that quality. There's a quality of the temperament which doesn't stick to it. Doesn't stick to anything. I mean, you put it here, it will come out. You can say the soap or something like that.
Like mercury, mother.
Huh?
Like mercury, it just flows.
Like mercury. But mercury also you can apply sometimes with heat. But this is something beyond mercury. It's absolute. Which doesn't stick to anything. You see? You just become like that. Oh, you do wear this, you wear that, you have this, all right. You are never. The name of the goddess is Nirmama. Nirmama. That for her nothing is her own. You see, she doesn't stick to it. She is in everything, but she doesn't stick to anything. For example, now see the light here. It's not sticking to anything, it exists by itself. doesn't stick to anything. This is the nearest you can say. It doesn't stick to anything. Anything tries to stick it, it gets burnt. That's a good idea. So this is what it is. This is called an enlightened person. Doesn't stick to it. And whatever tries to come very close gets burnt off. So such a person is not attached to anything. But that's not a mental thing that you can do that, oh, I'm not attached to you. See, it's very common in this country, especially, I hate you. But you can't hate anyone. How can you? And nor can you love anyone because the attachment cannot give you both the qualities. You see, because you are attached to someone, you say that you hate, simultaneously you are loving that. Because these are the dual qualities of attachment. See? So once you have attachment, you have both things. One moment you hate, another moment you love, another moment you hate, then you love and you don't know what's the matter with yourself. But the thing is, the quality of the mind is such that it is either getting attached mentally or either getting detached mentally. But actually, anybody say you love someone very much. No, you don't even die together. Whatever you may try, you cannot die together. One person has to die earlier, another has to die later. So the answer to his question that he asked was, why all these things are caused? So he said it is because of desire. Because of human desire, these are all problems are caused, like the death, like the old age, or the sickness are caused by desire. Now see in Sahaja Yoga language how we should understand him. Is the desire, as you know, is the left side. Left side gives you death. When the left side is very much used, you get to death ultimately when it is exhausted. When the left side is out, desire, you also get sickness. And when the left side is used too much, you get your old age. Of course, the right side is the one which does it, but the left side is the originator. If you have no desire, you won't go into the right side. First is the desire. The starting point is the desire. He reached the point all right, but he didn't clearly say what desire means. Desire means the left side. When we have the pure desire, which is the Kundalini, then all these things are neutralized. When the Kundalini rises, the pure desire, the real desire, the only desire, it gives you the absolute by which you don't get old, you don't die, and you do not get sick. Because you achieve that which is eternal. It does not die. You become the spirit. When you want to die, you die. When you want to be reborn, you are reborn. And you have that realized temperament within you. It does not die. That's what you take with you. Now you take your realization with you when you die. So what he tried to say was to build up that we should not have any desires. Now, because, you see, his passage was like that. He went from one to another, giving up this desire, that desire, that desire, that desire. Ultimately, he came to Kundalini. It's the same. Yan neti neti vachanai nigamo avochus. When you got saying not this, not this, not this, not this, not this, then you go to a point where you say, then what ultimately left is the desire, which is the pure desire. The desire, that is the Kundalini. Say, for example, you say, I'll have a house. No, I'll not have a house. I'll have a car. No, no car. No, I'll not have a wife. I'll not look at any woman. I'll have nothing to do with it. I'll give up this, give up that, give up that, give up that, give up that. Till you reach a point where you are at an absolute point. And there you realize that the Kundalini rises. But I think it is going too far. Why not start from the Kundalini right there? It's a simple thing. So Sahaja Yoga is the other way around stuff. Is that you better start from the Kundalini and neutralize all your left side. You see the point now? That's why Buddha was always regarded as an atheist. He was not. He was not an atheist. But as a matter of policy, he and Mahavira, they were contemporary. They decided, let's not have the name of God anywhere near. Because once you start the God business, big philosophies are built and people just start claiming it. I mean, they become that. Actually, anybody who reads Gita becomes a sort of a Krishna. Shri Krishna himself is the way he talks. People, I mean, you can be shocked the way they talk. As if they are Shri Krishna giving an advice to Arjuna, sitting on a chariot. They behave in that manner, their style is like that. I met one fellow called Chinmayanand. And I was amazed, the way he was talking. I was surprised. I mean, he was just behaving like Shri Krishna, of course, horrid looking. But he thought he was Shri Krishna himself, you see. So that's what identification takes place with human beings. When they start talking about God or his ways and others. So he said, all right, put that out. Just talk about self-realization. That's the first step. And Mahavira joined hands with him. It helped that time very much. To all the people who were in the name of ritualism, you see, they would say it's very difficult, Hinduism is the most difficult thing. You have to fast on Sunday because of the sun, Monday because of the moon, Tuesday because of the Mars, like that went on. And when do you eat your food? If you have to achieve God, then you have to take your bath at 4 o'clock and do this and do that and shave your head and then become a sannyasi. And you can't eat this and you can't eat that and you can't do that. All those things, ritualists, they start. But he felt that supposing if you take to sannyasi, so half of your desires are finished. You are a sannyasi, you are doing God's work, and there is no need to have a family or anything. So half of your desires are finished. If you have a family, then you want to do something for the family, you have to look after your family and all that is to be done. But he did not realize that he was a realized soul, others were not. You see, if a realized soul does that, it has no difference to him. Whether he has a family or no family makes no difference to a realized soul because he is not attached. But to a person who is not a realized soul, supposing he'll give up his car, he'll give up his house, go to the Himalayas. There what he'll do? He'll have a hut and have a barbed thing around. Then he may think of a Georgian style of a hut. Because according to them, Georgian style is unpretentious. So we can have, after all, we are sannyasi. That's typical. I tell you, all our Western mind is behaving in that way. If you see that we should be unpretentious. You see, it's very fussy, is the word they will use. If you put even a little, it's very fussy. They want everything to be plain, bland, you see. But what about inside? It's filled with what? This all bottled up with all kinds of rums, this, that. But the outside should be absolutely bland. The food should not be, if possible, just get it in its natural form. If not, don't have any taste in it. It should be so bland that any guest who comes to your house must starve. You see? All these funny ideas cropped up of asceticism. Then we have other people like Shambhalas who are going now to Gobi Desert. You see, they thought that this desert is not sufficient. Let's go to Gobi Desert. So they are going now to Gobi Desert. All these absurd ideas came out of Buddhism and also Jainism. Jainis went to the other extreme in vegetarianism because Buddha himself was not a vegetarian. Do you know that? He was not himself a vegetarian, nor was Mahavira. You'll be surprised. Vegetarianism for them was a philosophy. It was not a sort of a thing where you don't eat meat and all. Because Buddha himself died when he went to one of his disciples who was a hunter. And the hunter had killed a wild boar. And he said that the wild boar has been killed just now and it will take some time to cook. It's rather half done. I mean, he being an Indian, he could not eat that half done thing and he got diseased of, I think this liver or something got into problem and he died of that. See? I mean, I can't eat half done food myself, you see. This is half done now. Half done is a horrible stuff, but we eat because it is unpretentious, you see, or some sort of a thing. People have idea it's not, it's very next to the nature. You see, this is what is coming, but is all deliberate. You are attached inside. Outside, if you behave like that, you are not going to become that. Like hippies have an idea if they live like primitive people, then they become primitive. You cannot, your brain is modern. Just by living, you see, wearing a wig like a hippie, can I become primitive? I cannot, my brain is modern, you see. That's what people don't understand, that we are too deliberate. And all these deliberations can be only reduced if your self comes into your attention. Otherwise, all these are just our mental projections. So all this sannyasa and all these ideas came. Gradually, everyone who came on this earth, people have really made a mess out of them. And Buddha's mess has gone to such an extent that if you see that, you'll be shocked. It went into many formations. But I heard from my son-in-law that he went and visited some of the caves where the very early Buddhists lived in the caves because they were not supported by kings or anything. So they had a very bad time. And they used to live in the caves. And what my son-in-law told me that in the caves there are writings in Sanskrit, in Pali, and in Indian script saying that it is the spontaneous happening that can bring forth the self-realization. He's got that photographed. So it's coming forward. You see, so they knew about the Sahaja. They knew about it. But then as every religion has gone into a mess and a lot of funny sort of, we can say the funny sort of expressions. Also, Buddhism has gone, became Mahayana, Hinayana, all sorts of things. But one of them was called as Viditama, who ran away from India, settled down in Japan, and he started the Zen system of religion, which he kept to the spontaneous happening. That's one was preserved. Another was the Lao Tse style, who did not talk of God and of Buddha, but of Tao itself, the energy, or we can say about the Adi. So these two good things came out of it. While they searched back into the history of China and they found out the Adi Shakti lived many years back there as Kuan Yin. And that's how Kuan Yin was established as a goddess for many Buddhists. Now then, Buddha also got into another form because there was a big competition between Hindus of those days and the Buddhist. So they wanted to form. For ordinary people, it's very difficult to understand the philosophy. So they thought that we should have Buddha expressed as he has been and he will be. So they formed their, uh, see, as you say, he's a Maitreya is going to come, the future Buddha is Bodhisattva, and they started making his statues and everything. So they made Buddha as the god and started using him to represent the divine power, giving him forms and things. And like that, many things happened. But Buddha himself was so much frightened of the ritualism that they said, you should not worship anything, you should not build any temples. So, you see, the loophole was found out. If temples are not to be built, we'll build stupas. Now, in the stupas, they put the tooth of Buddha. Of course, that was sensible to do, I must say. But of course, Buddha had said not to do it. And they put it there. He had two disciples called as Sariputta and Mogala. They were very good disciples of his. And their bones were collected after they were burnt out and were put in the stupas. That was something definitely sensible to put them there. Of course, the bones and all these things should not be disturbed because it's not good. It creates a problem for the body. But at least if they have put it there in the Mother Earth, it would have been all right, but they put it in caskets. Now, the first casket was made of wood, the second of silk, the third of iron, the fourth one of wood, sort of thing, mummified those things. But that was a very wrong thing to do because if you go on keeping like that, some parts of the body of these great people, it can hamper their rebirth or their body which they want to again incarnate. But hair is all right or nails are all right, but you shouldn't keep the part of their body like that. And this kind of thing gave another nonsensical ideas to horrible human beings. What they did, that they thought that if we have to keep some part of the person who died like divine person, why not we cut the hand of someone and like that. So in Tibet and all these places, especially in Ladakh, see, they used to cut the hands of the people when they died, and big ritual for the dead, and then they started going towards the dead. So they started moving towards the left side. Most of the Buddhists moved to the left side, which was absolutely prohibited by Buddha because he is on the right side. He said, cut down your desires. Do the karmas without the desire. This was his idea. Activate your right side without the desire. This was his philosophy. But all of them are left side. They have desires, not only desires, but whatever they do it out of desire. Like the worst is like the Japanese. They think that you can commit suicide in the name of your nation.
जय श्री माता जी। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, आज आपने बुद्ध पूर्णिमा के अवसर पर हमसे ध्यान करा के हमें संतुलन अवस्था प्रदान की। श्री बुद्ध जी की शक्ति हमारे अंदर जागृत की, इसीलिए श्री माता जी हम आपके ऋणी हैं। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, इस ध्यान के दौरान हमसे कोई भूल या गलती हुई हो तो कृपा करके हमें क्षमा करें। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी के चरणों पर कुछ प्रार्थनाएं अर्पित करते हैं। परम पूज्य श्री माता जी, पूरे विश्व में श्री बुद्ध जी की शक्ति जागृत हो जाए। हम सारे सहयोगियों के अंदर जो बुद्ध के प्रति, धर्म के प्रति और संघ के प्रति और आप के प्रति जो शरणागत अवस्था है वो हमारे अंदर जागृत हो जाए। हमारी सारी प्रार्थनाओं का कृपा करके आप स्वीकार करें। जय श्री माता जी। सामूहिक बंधन।